Lemon, you have the floor.
Good evening and thank you for having me tonight. My name is Victor Cariou. I'm the Ghana correspondent for Radio France International, TV5 and Le Monde Afrique. These questions concern the diplomatic relationship between the United States of America and Ghana and Africa, and the deportation of migrants from the US to third countries in Africa. Your Excellency, with regard to this matter, how do you perceive the recent deal between the US and Rwanda, Eswatini or South Sudan? And also, has Ghana already received migrants from a third country deported from the US? Or if not, is Ghana considering doing so in the near future? Thank you.
Thank you very much. GTV has the floor now.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. You announced that the government will remove the minimum capital requirement for foreign investors under a revised Ghana Investment Promotion Sector Act during your visit to Japan. Your Excellency, is the government not removing the protection that shields Ghanaian enterprises by removing the minimum capital requirement? And also the concerns about the Ghanaian traders with the activities of the Nigerian trade partners in the country. There's a request for that part of the GIPC Act to be amended to make it possible for Nigerian and indeed other African traders to move more freely within the space because of ASCFTA. What are your views? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kojo Yankson has the floor now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Kojo Yankson. I'm the host of the Super Morning Show on Joy. Mr. President, you've already talked about how important it is to safeguard the water bodies and the forest reserves. But over the past 9 months since you became president, the turbidity levels in the water bodies have worsened, according to the Water Resources Commission. Ghana Water Company supports this by saying that they've had to shut down several treatment plants because the water sources are too polluted for them to process. Besides that, we know that there have been increased incursions into forest reserves for Galamsey. We've also heard from your transport minister that we are importing more excavators than ever before, over 200 a day. My question about this is about its effect on the economy. Recently, the finance minister has been touting the work of the Goldbod led by Sami Jimfi for being an anchor to the economy, especially when it comes to stabilizing the city. My question is, does your government know, is your government able to tell the difference between gold from Galamsey and gold from regular concessions when the Gold Board is buying gold from local producers? And could it be, because so much of it comes from Galamsey, could that be the reason why we are seeing some reluctance recently in the fight against Galamsey, in the sense that the IGP's efforts have been stopped and he's brought back his men from the forests? Could this be because?
Thank you very much. I think your point is made. So I'll turn to the BBC now.
I'm Thomas Nadi from the BBC World Service. Mr. President, during our interview last year ahead of the elections, you mentioned you were going to establish special courts to fast-track the trial of corruption cases. Could you update us on how far you've gone with that? And also, some of the oral cases border on national security, particularly the Edu Boahene one. Do you intend to take them out of court? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The lady in a lot of white and black.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Benes Abubeidulansa. I'm a broadcast journalist with GH1 Television. In your speech, you mentioned that you are committed to resetting institutions. But there are many Ghanaians watching us tonight who are either on the verge of homelessness or struggling to get money to rent. Not because they don't have money, but because we are not sticking to our rent laws. I just want to ask when your reset agenda will reach the housing sector, particularly for the State Housing Company Limited in putting up real affordable homes for many Ghanaians, and the Rent Control Department in protecting vulnerable Ghanaians.
Thank you very much. His Excellency has granted a special dispensation for the lady in less white and more black to ask a question. After her, we'll grant yet another dispensation to our friend from the Upper East region who has come all the way. And then Randia Haji of WOHO TV will bring the question session to a close. Please go ahead.
The question is if you ask a man to one family and Kebehame pa. Midi Ede Monica is Anova home-based television. Mepacho wa bole bamboy tuna kalba ya kwano enye ese ya che ye bre yetimi di 16 hours don shi dunsia na yendru fie ye bisa se mampenyi die na wo ye de amayen ye mu bia ye ntumi mfasore fo ma na ebefe ye ne den so bin so ene bamboy enko a yetimi di don shirim yenu ewo ho na ye mfiri mu enam so akwemu kan for me share am robbers omunso afasa akwenya no so haye pa na musuo bo na okokasa okofa state transport which is STC then you due because omono they drive with care and caution to on kan ho kra and then na wunyandri obede nyane ada sore sa na onansi na tatai wadaroma odi anka kwan ho nsem de nka ya ade pa na ye de na ye de wayi afri musa da ben ene ye hwe wanim se obosia boy.
So our friend from the Upper East region would have Upper West region. Is it Upper East? Upper East region, yes. But you have only one question, please.
Upper East. Thank you very much.
Only one of you is allowed to ask a question. So
thank you very much for
the same region. Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is David Adapuna from Mike FM in Avrongo, Upper East region. Your Excellency, one of the things that beats the hearts of my people has to do with the Pawlugu multipurpose dam. This was an initiative that was started by the NPP government, but unfortunately, we could not see its completion. This project held so much prospects, including that of irrigation, power generation, and flood control. Just recently, the Barry Dam was opened and we saw the devastation it caused. We're asking, now that the project is not happening, what plans will your government, your Excellency, have for my people so that our concerns are addressed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so please go ahead.
Okay.
Grant him the...
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'm called Joshua Sir with A1 Radio and Bolga FM in the Upper East region. Mr. President, in our region, that is the Upper East region, currently we do not have a standard sports stadium, and as a result, sports and youth development are greatly hampered. The only existing structure, which was built in the 70s to serve as a sports stadium, is no longer fit for purpose. What are the plans of the government to ensure the Upper East region has a modern sports stadium? Recently, we saw a young man who walked from Bolga to the nation's capital to solicit for a sports stadium. I don't know if the president is aware of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, Randy has the last word.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please, Mr. President, I want to find out the latest updates on the Ghana's version of Ashigame. proposed to be established at Pawlugu. And also, per my last checks from the whole airport, there were plans to establish an aviation school. How far with that one too? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. His Excellency will answer these questions. Okay. Okay. Senior A.R. Gomda, the President Senior and Secondary School, has the final word by presidential fiat. Please give him the microphone.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Excellency, your recent directive that 2 persons be investigated for their activities regarding Galamsey went down well with a lot of people, but so far we haven't had any outcome from it. Can you please tell us what is happening or what is going to happen? Thank you very much indeed. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Senior, we used to call him Major in Ghana Secondary School. When I came to Form 1, they were in Form 3, Yeah, and he was, as a very little boy, he was one of my protectors. He used to protect me from bullying, and that's why I gave him the last. The first question was from, what's your institution? Oh, Radio France. Yeah, okay, it's about Ghana-US relations. First, we were slapped with 10% tariff that was increased to 15%. And then we're included in 36 countries that were going to be placed on a visa ban. But in the meantime, all 5-year visas were cancelled, and we were restricted to single entry 3 months. It shows the tightening situation in our foreign relations, but I do think that we still enjoy good relations with the United States of America. We were approached by the US to accept third-party nationals who were being removed from the US. And we agreed with them that West African nationals, were acceptable, because all our fellow West Africans don't need a visa to come to our country. So if they decided to travel from US to Accra, they don't need a visa anyway. So if you're bringing our colleague West Africans back, that's okay. And so I think that agreement has been activated, and a first batch of 14 nationals came. Several of them were our Nigerian brothers. They opted to go back home, and so we put them on buses, to be able to go back home. One of them was a Gambian who is not as easy. You have to get him an air ticket to be able to facilitate his travel. So what we've done is contacted their embassy to let them know of his presence so that they can facilitate his return to Gambia. And so that's the issue with regards to deportations and arrivals. West Africa has the protocol of free movement, and so any West African is free to come to Ghana and be able to stay for 90 days. And so if they decide to bring them, we don't have a problem accepting them. Then with regards to the GIPC Act, we are living in a new environment. We have the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. We have the African Continental Free Trade Area that wants us to open our markets to each other. And so the former protective regime is changing. And so we need to review the GIPC Act to be able to take cognizance of that. And aside from that, there's limited foreign direct investment in the whole world. And so you need to place yourself in a position where you're able to attract as much foreign investment as possible. So when you put a barrier of $1 million, there are people who with $500,000 can open a manufacturing establishment. But because you say he must show $1 million of transferred capital into the country, then you shut out that investor. And that's why, as part of the GIPC review, we're removing the minimum requirement so that anybody who wants to come and set up a business in Ghana to provide employment for our people is welcome to come. But that is different from the issue of the markets. And so there's advocacy that we should review that issue with markets. The current law restricts retail sector to only Ghanaians. And there are people who argue that it's anti-competition and so many other things. But of course, in most countries, you want to reserve a certain portion of the economy for your people. And so Parliament is going to look at it, and eventually whatever law they pass is what we have to live with. I never expected, or I never deluded myself that the fight against illegal gold mining or galamsey was going to be an event. I mean, definitely, there's no magic wand. The decay has eaten so much over the last 8 years that it's going to take a lot of work to be able to overcome it. And I didn't expect that in 18 months we would declare victory in the fight. As the livelihoods of about 4 million Ghanaians is on small-scale mining. And so it's going to be a process. It's not going to be an event. But we will not give up. We have a determination to get on top of it. The Goldbod was introduced as part of reforms. And if the Goldbod was not introduced, I mean, those who were taking the profits from the small-scale mining sector were the foreign traders who were taking that money away. In 6 months, we have exported over $6 billion. About $4 billion of that money was going to go into the private or foreign traders. And so the first thing is you shut the stable door so that the horse doesn't escape, which is what we've done. So if it's from illegal sources, it's from legal sources. At least it's our land that is being destroyed. So let us get the benefit of it instead of foreign traders. So that's the first thing. But if you go and read the Goldbod law, it has a requirement for tracking and tracing. And as I speak, the Goldbod is working with an organization to put on a track and trace system. And so they're going to see those who have legitimate license requirements so that they can assist them in responsible mining, so that we can buy that gold off them. Once we do tracking and tracing, it's in our interest, because then we can export under LBMA, and we'll get more profit from exporting under LBMA. So the Goldbod is not just about buying gold, it's also about financing responsible small-scale mining. And mind you, small-scale mining is not illegal in this country. It's provided for in our laws. It's just that in many cases, we've not even trained the miners about what responsible mining is. You just see anybody who gets an excavator just goes anywhere and starts digging and washing. But small-scale mining takes place in Australia. It takes place in Canada. And so as I speak, we are organizing a trip for the Small-Scale Miners Association to Australia. Australia has given us an invitation to bring them to come and see how small-scale mining is done without destroying the environment. And so that's something we're going to take an advantage of. And the Goldbod is leading, and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources are leading that charge. Only recently, our Minister for Lands and Natural Resources came back from Australia. And so we need to train these small-scale miners. The gold is a blessing that God gave us. It's a natural resource that God gave us to make life better for our people. It's just that the way and manner in which we are going about it is causing distraction to the environment. But it is the result of an increase in the gold price. And if you've read widely, you'll find that the same thing is happening in Peru. It's happening in several other countries because of the heightened gold price. And so for whatever little gold you're able to find, you get more money. Galamsey was not a problem when gold was $2,000 per ounce. But today, gold is pushing $3,600 per ounce. And because of the lack of jobs, jobless growth for several decades, there are a lot of young people who are coming out of school who have no job work to do. And so for them, that is the only livelihood. And so we must not think just about chasing them all over the place without providing alternatives for them. Because the alternative is that they should stay home and starve or go out and do something deviant. And that's why we came up with the cooperative mining concept, for which we recently lost our colleagues. They were going to launch it, the first of its kind in Anglo, because one of the things we said was that we're going to let the big mining companies seed off some of their concessions. Some of them have 400, 500 miles square. And there's gold in some parts of those concessions that they will never mine because the grams per ton of ore is so low. But yet, if you put a small-scale miner there, he can mine it effectively. And so we've discussed with them and they've all agreed. And so Anglo Ashanti was the first. They've cut a part of the concession. And that is what Omani and Murtala and Co. were going to launch, cooperative mining, so that we'll move the small-scale miners from the forest reserves where they are causing destruction and settle them on the concessions where the big mining companies have seeded. As I speak, Newmont has demarcated an area for these small-scale miners. And we have asked the big companies to mentor them and supervise them and make sure they do the right thing. So that was going to be an alternative for moving them out of the forest and other places so that they can mine under the supervision of those companies. And that's where our colleagues were going when the helicopter crashed. And so it's a program that we're going to continue so that we can give them an alternative, not just go chase them around without finding something else for them to do. And so that's something we're working on. With regards to excavators, we're enforcing the law that you must get the permits before the excavator is put on a ship. That is what the law has been, but it was not followed. And so they let the excavator land before they come and ask the Ministry of Transport for a permit. And so we've informed all the dealers that you cannot load an excavator onto a ship until you have gotten a permit. In the meantime, a lot of excavators have arrived at the port. And recently, somebody said they were being released at midnight to their owners and things. That's not true. What happens was there were so many that they had occupied a huge area of the port and congested the port. And so we found the land near Shai Hills, near the military installation. And the Field Engineers Regiment and others have been given charge to move the excavators from the port to that area so that they can free up space in the port. And they do that in the night because of traffic in the daytime. So in the night, they have the payloaders moving the excavators out of the port to the designated areas where they are supposed to be held. And before any of those excavators is released, they must be tracked. They must have a tracker on them. They must be registered by the owner of the excavator. And we must know the purpose for which the excavator has been imported. Because the construction industry also imports excavators. And so you cannot put a blanket ban on importation of excavators just because you think that every excavator is going to go into the illegal mining industry. Even the big mining companies that have licenses import excavators. And so we want to know who is importing the excavators, who it is going to. We want to be able to put a tracker on it and be able to trace that excavator wherever it is in the country. We called off the IGP's anti-Galamsey task force because they are supposed to coordinate with NIMOS, that is the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. Unfortunately, they were not doing that. So every little commander in any this thing gets up, Galamsey phobia, they can't tell who is licensed, they can't tell who is not licensed. And so it was just like an attack on the whole small-scale mining industry. And so what we said was they should freeze their action. They should synchronize it with the National Anti-Galamsey operational secretariat so that they can be directed exactly to where to go in terms of the anti-galamsey fight. While we're fighting galamsey, it doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all for everybody to get up. Anybody gets up, puts on a helmet, puts on a jacket, and says, I'm anti-galamsey. They say, we're not looking for chaos. We're looking to do it, in a scientific manner so that we do not hurt the whole of the small-scale mining industry. We talked about special courts for anti-corruption. I actually said we'll speak with the Chief Justice and see if they can create special courts for prosecuting people who are flagged in the Auditor General's report. And so that is something the Attorney General is pursuing, because every year we see Auditor General's report, it goes before the Public Accounts Commission, they say this person diverted this person misappropriated this and that, and yet no action is taken. And so Ghanaians have been saying, so what's the use of the Auditor General's report? And so we're asking the Chief Justice, can you create special courts which can fast-track action on the Auditor General's report? So people who are determined to be criminally liable after the Public Accounts Committee has sat can be put before those courts so that they are sanctioned to create a deterrent so that other people do not do the same thing that they have done. Very good question on rent and homelessness, and I'm happy to give you the microphone to ask it. The biggest expenditure in any Ghanaian's budget is rent. And even though we have laws, enforcing them has been difficult. The rent law says that a landlord cannot charge more than 6 months. But the problem in enforcing the law is the connivance of the tenant and the landlord. The tenant won't come and report that they are charging him 1 year's rent advance because he wants the room. And so that has been the problem. And the problem is because our population is growing beyond our housing capacity. So the competition for accommodation and housing is very strong. And that is why we must expand our housing coverage. And I remember in our manifesto, we have a pledge to expand housing. And in the next budget, we're going to make provision for that. I've already had a discussion with some of the associations, the organized labor associations. Some of them have funds that are sitting in their accounts, and they have members who want houses. So what I've said is government will match their funds. And so if they give 1 billion cedis, we will give 1 billion cedis. And then one of the banks, Republic Bank, has said that they are willing to also match with 1 billion cedis. So if we get a 3 billion cedi fund, we can start building houses in all the districts. And as people pay their down payments, it will go back into the fund and it will become a revolving fund. And governments can give it to people. I said if you have like about 15 to 20 years before retirement, you can take a house and we'll be deducting from your salary monthly, so that by the time your retirement time is up, you have your own accommodation to go to. And as we take those deductions, they will go back into the fund. So it becomes like a revolving fund so that we can increase the housing stock. But the Minister of Finance will talk about that when he reads the budget in November. Minuaba, say ufi yekrom honomo. Techiman wenchi Bamboy Bole Wa Road, a major international corridor. Na nearby, adia ba say a quine say a bedroom rebia trucks ni bebre omokom Mali any Burkina Faso a ye bobo dula so hono a ho akoye kwan a won faso ma omo enti omo mfa techiman omo mfa kentampo kwan ni bium e ko pagansa na omo akomani because omo fa wenchi kwan na omo ko pie bole no mo pie wa no mo ko pie hamile wodru hamile a bobo dula so e wo enchen ho a wo pai efa wonsa benkum so a de wo ko Bamako enti ama enhyen akese ne bebre enam sa kwan no so ekwan no so ya nye ne se ebetimi afa sa wait, how do you call wait? Yanye ekwano se ne befa sa enyoma na omofa no emu odu. Aha, enti amakwan na sai kra. Enti yese obia hohoro nsuo eba na na emu meboa. Ho na misu mi free nti ye a big push no. Ma sheda de akoshe big push no mo. Enti nyame adom enche kra obehu se contractor ego so den na fe aka chom se omo ye kwan na omo nye no se ne trucks e fa so no emma ne nsa biom because afi hu se eho e no omo pefa enti ye kwan no ne nye ne yie se ne be ya omo fa so mpo a kwan no be che amayin na omo ye no so se bole mi krom nti me se contractor na ye no bole town roads on kai na on CC ho emma me nti eyade a enche bia obehu se baso Pawlugu multipurpose dam, we are rescoping the project, and so currently the contract was awarded to Sino Hydro, but it was supposed to be funded from Government of Ghana sources. Government of Ghana didn't have the money, and so the contract was not executed. And so we are rescoping it. It means we have to do an appraisal of what the costing will be again. And what we intend is to, if possible, finance it under the big push. The last time it was to cost about $900 and something million, almost $1 billion. And $1 billion today is about 11 point something, almost 12. So that would be about 12 billion CDs. This year, the total budget for big push was 14 billion. Next year, the total budget is 30 billion. And so we'll see how we can accommodate it in phases, because it has two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Maybe we're not able to do the two phases immediately, but we can start with phase 1, which is the electricity production, and then phase 2 is the flood control and the irrigation. And so we're rescoping it, and you'll soon hear something about it. With regards to stadia, we promised to build stadia in all the new regions and the regions that don't have modern stadia. So as I speak, the Ministry of Sports and Recreation is doing the design and the costing for the new stadia. And Upper East is one of the regions that has been captured to receive a new sports stadium. That also is under the big push. What we're doing is Takwa Goldfields built a stadium, a standard stadium for their football activities. And I was surprised to learn it costs about $13 million. When Government of Ghana has built stadia, it costs hundreds of millions of dollars. But for those of you who have gone to Takwa and see their stadium, it's a standard stadium. And I think it takes about 5,000 or more, or is it 10,000 people? And so if they could build it for 13 million, government too should be able to do same. So we've asked them to find out the architects, the designers, and everybody who did that stadium so that we can replicate it in our other regions that don't have stadia. And then finally, Ashigami, we've got the money. China is giving us money for the Aflao market. The land has been acquired, and the designs are being worked on, and soon a contractor will be appointed to build the markets. And so that promise is on track. Aviation school at WOHO Airport, Togbe Afede is leading the charge. The current status is that the land has been allocated, and currently surveyors are on the land marking out the demarcation for the aviation school. We're also trying to attract an MRO. MRO is maintenance repair organization. And so we want to use WOHO Airport as the center for maintaining aircrafts. There are a lot of aircrafts in Nigeria and other places that if we have a good MRO in WOHO, we'll just fly the short distance and come and service their aircrafts there. And so we're working on that. The last question was about the referral of two of our executives to WOHO to investigate allegations of involvement in illegal mining. That investigation is active. Some allegations were made, and WOHO is investigating whether there was any substance to the allegation. As and when they conclude that investigation, they'll give us a report, and we'll determine what should be done. So that's it. I think I've answered all the questions so far. I thank you very much for your attendance, and this is the first in several such encounters. I'll make myself available as regularly as possible to answer any questions that you might pose on behalf of the general public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I was actually billed to give a vote of thanks, but it would appear that you have done it at presidential level. So I'll proceed to thank all of you and indicate that we'll draw the curtains down on this program at this juncture.